Kimberly Samaha. Kimberly is a managing partner with Synthesis Venture Fund Partners. She's also a professor at AUB and a business school. And Dr. Samaha is also a serial entrepreneur and has founded several companies and been an investor for more than 30 years, also experienced in this industry as an entrepreneur and investor. She specializes in US market, launching a series of startups and managing acquisitions into large multinational companies around the world. Our panel is about the hot global trends. And just now we're seeing a lot of these companies kind of like being born global, and they're from the beginning they started in a small country where the market probably limited. So they're looking at the globe as their market. What do you see along those lines of trends from a global perspective?
So one of the things I'm definitely seeing is, we're, as a venture capital fund, we've probably done over almost 1,500 deals, and about 35% of them are actually international. So we're seeing a lot of inbound sort of deal flow, and I think whether it's from the Middle East or in Europe or in Asia, we're definitely seeing startups at an earlier stage thinking about tackling more than just their own market now. So I definitely see among the younger generation, and I say this as an old person, among the younger generation, they're definitely thinking much larger and being much more ambitious about the markets. And where we're seeing a lot of activity are particularly from the smaller countries in general, whether it's like places like in Scandinavia, like in Sweden or in Estonia. The smaller countries tend to think global from the beginning because they have to.
Yeah, and in an interesting perspective, just because 500 Startups, one of the pioneer funds who started with that intention of looking at startups around the globe. And anything else you want to add from, what kind of fueled that kind of strategy?
The reality is that if you look at where most of the economic and demographic growth is actually happening, it's actually not in the US, right? And I would argue it's also not happening in Europe, it's happening almost everywhere else in the world. And so if you look at hard demographics, like this is where most of the growth is going to be over the next 10, 20 years. So we're learning, the reality is that you make a lot of mistakes in early stage investing, but you make a lot of bets and sort of help develop the ecosystem through making these investments. And that actually helps grow for the long term and also helps us with deal flow too.
Great. Kimberly, from your point of view, how do you see this global approach? You've done some energy deals and you were working in that industry. Can you share something about the global perspective?
I think one of the things that was great about the video that we just saw was the fact that it really illustrates, for me, what is the biggest shift in when we talk about the move in global trends. And that's really the fact that we're becoming integrated ecosystems. And it's not anymore about trying to be the one unicorn, the race to the top, which creates really an overall effect of racing all of us to the bottom. And what I really feel very strongly about is that this kind of a systems connectivity that we're seeing globally between the activity that we have here in Lebanon, if you just take what was just shown up on the slides and multiply that by every major city in the world, in every country in the world, this is what's happening. And it's created a whole new connectivity between what's happening on a local level, at the incubator level, what's happening at these kind of global accelerator levels, and right up into the strategic and corporate backbones. And that was my background was, it was almost 10 years ago when they first started trying to do this, and the big corporations were saying, how do we breed innovation? We can't seem to get this done in these big corporate bureaucracies. We have to go outside. And now I really believe that this is going to be the fundamental change in the next 5 years, is the fact that it's happened. There is the ability now to connect from all the way to the end of the customer's experience, where they're saying, we need this. And if we need this, it's not just one thing. It's 7 or 8 things. And those 7 or 8 things can be found by mining backwards into these ecosystems. Looking at the international accelerators that are going to play a role in terms of going around to all of these different countries, including Lebanon, and bringing the best of each one of those to the verticals that need it. So I think this is a huge shift, actually.
Great. What do you say, what is this year is going to be about?
The idea that this leapfrogging into the mobile app, the fact that all of us are walking around with a phone in our hand, is going to be the next step in a lot of the sleeping industries. So, some of the industries that we look at, such as, let's call it energy, even education, even healthcare, all of these are kind of have-to-have industries where you have to have electricity, you're going to have an education, you're going to have to take care of your health. And I think that's some of the fundamentals in terms of what is going to be revenue drivers for real businesses. But the game changer is going to be the mobile app. Those are going to be the kind of sprinkles on top. And so when you're looking at something like the Internet of Things, one of the sections we look at is the Internet of Energy Things. And the concept in the energy market for years and years and years is you build a power plant, you make electricity, and you charge the customer for the electricity. Nothing innovative, nothing new. And what we're seeing now is that the next trend is really going beyond smart meters and trying to put together computer interlinks. Everything's going to be done by the phone. So this piece in terms of mobile apps is going to be, I think, astronomical, because it's, a lot of it's been looking at the latest trends, and in industries we keep hearing things like it's going to be disruptive. Well, I can tell you, having worked 30 years in the utility business, don't ever tell a utility you're going to disrupt them. That's the last thing they want to hear. But what they do want to hear is that if you've got something that's going to A, increase their revenues, or B, decrease their costs because you're coming up with a whole new way of doing business, then that's something they're going to be interested in. And I think that's a huge, huge market that's completely untapped. Companies nowadays are born global, and I think that was just a terrific statement in terms of the reality of it. I think that trying to be either coming from the MENA region, if you're trying to be a Me Too, that's tough, because being a Me Too and then trying to compete with, as I said, there's if you have one product or one idea, there's at least 150 other ideas that are hatched at the same time that look just like you. So I think part of it is, again, getting to the idea of which piece is missing and how can we start working this backwards. So instead of coming up with just a good idea, find out what's missing and craft the companies and the startups around that missing piece. That's where we could play an important role.
So my question is, does any of these trends affect employment more than others? And if not, should we care about certain trends in this region of the world? Because our priority seems to be employment, not maybe cutting-edge technologies.
I think that's an excellent question, because I think the whole initiative here in Lebanon was really first to try to see if we could stimulate the economy through creating jobs. And certainly by making an app that could be used worldwide may create a big splash, but I'm not sure how many jobs it's creating. And I think that's one of the interesting questions we should ask ourselves about the industries, taking level industries that are currently employing people. I was just meeting last week with the people that are trying to put in the meters here for Electricity du Liban. So what could we add on to that picture that would create more jobs here and be that sprinkle on the top that becomes an app that could be replicated and put out? So I think that's a great question to ask. Where are the job creating parts, and then what could be added on top of that that gives us that elevation on both levels?
Y'all mentioned bringing ideas from other parts of the world to the MENA region. And I wondered, as investors, what are some of the questions that you have to ask yourself in order to understand if a business model will survive in the MENA region, or if you need to dig deeper and understand some extra level of the culture before trying to promote it?
I think if there's any of the entrepreneurs in the audience that have sat with me to go through this experience, the first question I always ask is, sell this to me. Give me the experience. What am I buying from you? And if that experience resonates in terms of the type of thing somebody would want to have or have to have, I think that can be pretty culturally unbiased. That's you're humans at the end of the day. So if the human part of even the psychology of the product makes sense, then that's the best place to start. And then you have to work yourself backwards from there.
Me being a student, how do you think the youth and students in general can help support this growing technological advancement in the MENA region?
Believe in yourself and follow your idea and start a company.
I was going to say, being a professor myself, I would advise you to really help us to create here in Lebanon the concept of an entrepreneurial education. I think it's ripe and it's really something that can happen. It's an initiative that we've already started. We're calling it Lead and Succeed. And it's really about trying to integrate this at the university level, the high school level, all the way down through the ecosystem. I really thank you for asking that question because I think that's an essential part of making this a long-term winning strategy here. If we don't have the students prepared, we don't have, there's no incubator or accelerator that's going to get you there. It's got to start earlier. So we're working on it.
Anything you want to add? No. Yeah, I think it's a great time because of the youth. This is an opportunity to take risks, to try, to fail, to learn, and to raise hell and get some support from the policymaker and ecosystem people. This is, you're in a great place, so don't miss the opportunity.